Have you ever imagined yourself as an Olympic athlete running your race in a stadium filled with thousands of spectators cheering you on? Well, you may never make the Olympic team, but if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you are running a race, and you are surrounded by people watching and witnessing the race you are running. There are several places in the New Testament where living our life as a believer in Christ is portrayed as running a race. One such place is in the book of Hebrews. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, we read, "Therefore, since we also have such a large cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every hindrance and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that lies before us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." This passage provides us with several insights on how to run our race successfully. First, the author of Hebrews speaks of a large cloud of witnesses that surrounds us. This is a reference to the heroes of faith who have gone before us, individuals like Abraham, Moses, David, and many others. These witnesses have left a legacy of faith and endurance that serve as an example for us to follow. They faced challenges, overcame obstacles, and remained steadfast in their faith. Their lives testify to the power of God and the possibility of living a life of faith, obedience, and victory. The author of Hebrews spent the previous chapter, chapter 11, describing the race that these earlier saints ran. When runners enter a race, they do not wear bulky clothing or carry unnecessary weight. They wear clothing that will not interfere with their progress. They lay aside or cast off anything that may hinder their progress. As we look to these witnesses, we are encouraged to lay aside every hindrance and the sin that so easily ensnares us. The author is urging us to let go of anything that hinders our progress in the race of life. This could be sin in our lives, or it could be things that we don't consider sin, but that hinder our walk with Christ. It could be unhealthy habits, negative attitudes, or distractions that keep us from fully experiencing the life that God has planned for us as we successfully run the race set before us. Notice that we are called to be intentional and purposeful in identifying and removing anything that obstructs our spiritual growth and relationship with God. Furthermore, the author encourages us to run with endurance the race that lies before us. Life is compared to a race, and we are called to run it with perseverance and steadfastness. Just like in a physical race, endurance is essential. It requires discipline, determination, and resilience. Just as athletes train for a race, we also must train ourselves to be godly. We may face obstacles, setbacks, and challenges along the way, but we are called to keep going and never give up. Our faith is not a sprint, but a marathon, and we are to press on, trusting in God's strength and guidance. Verse 2 highlights the motivation behind Jesus' endurance. For the joy that lay before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus endured the cross because of the joy that was set before him. He knew that his suffering would ultimately result in the redemption and salvation of humanity. Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross was the ultimate act of love, driven by his desire to reconcile us to God and bring us eternal joy and salvation. It serves as a powerful reminder of the depth of God's love for us and the lengths to which he was willing to go to redeem us. His example teaches us that endurance is not just about gritting our teeth and enduring hardship, but about having a clear vision of the joy and hope that awaits us on the other side. As Jesus endured the cross, we also should run our race with endurance. The key to enduring the race and running well is found in the first part of verse 2, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Jesus is the ultimate example for us to follow. He blazed the trail for us, paving the way by his perfect life, sacrificial death on the cross, and victorious resurrection. He is the pioneer who has gone ahead of us and the perfecter who has completed the work of salvation. He is our model and source of strength, We need to always keep our eyes upon Jesus. Perhaps a biblical example will make it clearer. Do you remember Peter's experience in walking on water in Matthew 14? The disciples are in a boat, crossing the Sea of Galilee at night. They see Jesus walking on the sea and they are terrified, supposing that he is a ghost. Jesus identifies himself, and then Peter, in verse 28, says, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Jesus tells him to come, and then Peter steps out of the boat and begins walking toward Jesus. Peter is okay when he is focused on Jesus. But then he sees the wind and takes his focus off Jesus and instead focuses on his surroundings. Consequently, he begins to sink. Now, Peter is an expert fisherman. He knows that what is happening cannot occur naturally, but he has forgotten the supernatural Son of God standing before him. He responds with one of the shortest prayers recorded anywhere, "Lord, save me." Clearly, Peter doubted and did not have faith at this moment. Jesus said as much. However, before we criticize Peter for lack of faith, we should remember that he was the only disciple who got out of the boat. Also, when was the last time you walked on water? As we reflect on this passage in Hebrews, we are reminded that we are not alone in the race of life. We have a cloud of witnesses who have gone before us, and we have Jesus as our ultimate example and source of strength. We are called to lay aside hindrances, run with endurance, and keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. With faith, perseverance, and a vision of the joy that awaits us, we can overcome any obstacle that comes our way.